Good morning, everyone. My name is Scott. I'm going to give you a better introduction here in just a minute. Welcome to your end user training here for Volunteers of America, Chesapeake. I know you guys are, some of you are kind of across the country, but generally you're based out of Maryland and DC. I'm just west of all of you. I'm over in Arlington, Virginia. So just a little commonality there, but I wanted to say hi, welcome, good morning. I am actually going to turn my camera on for just a minute so that you know there is a real person here. It's a little dark in my apartment this morning. Not much sunlight coming through those windows, but I always like to make sure that you know that there's somebody real here. You can also see my dog laying behind me. But I'm excited to get started with you all. Before we do that, I want to check in here. I know there were about 12 of us that were supposed to be here. Right now I see 11 attendees. So Patrice, what I'm going to do actually, Patrice, is make you a panelist so that you have the ability to mute and unmute yourself, just in case we need to chat. And I just want to check with you. Do you think we're okay?
We can get started.
To get going? Okay, great.
Yeah, it's 5 minutes after. We can get started.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Well, everyone, you are already in GoToWebinar, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page with this platform because it is a little bit different than Teams, than Zoom. If you've used any of those platforms before, GoToWebinar is similar, but has a couple little quirks to it that we just want to make sure we understand. The first is this control panel. If you don't see this control panel right here, so this like gray kind of rectangular bar here, if you don't see that, you might just need to go down to the taskbar at the bottom of your screen and click on the little flower icon, and that little flower icon should bring all that GoToWebinar stuff back to the forefront of your screen. You can do that at any time. If you do see this control panel, or once you click the flower to bring it back to the front, you should see a little white arrow with an orange background. That opens up your control panel. Below that, though, you have your mute and unmute button. Right now, I have everybody muted on my end. I can do that, keep you all muted, or unmute you all just to kind of keep things clean and tidy in here. And you also have the raise your hand feature as well. I'm going to have you guys check those out and make sure they work in just a second. But if you open up your control panel, on the inside of that, there are some audio options. Yours might look a little bit different. I think this was a screenshot from somebody who was an organizer, so they had some different options. You'll probably just see an audio tab and a questions box tab, which is on the next screen. But if at any point you have any audio issues, it looks like you're all connected right now. But if you have any audio issues, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's my internet, sometimes though it is just GoToWebinar being a little funky, but feel free to kind of let us know or just toggle those buttons between computer audio, phone call, no audio. And that will sometimes just disconnect you and reconnect you and fix the audio issue, and that will happen every once in a while. And in case you have different speakers or different microphones that you have set up, you can open up those drop downs in your audio tab and toggle between the different options. Like I have a separate mic and separate speakers that I like my stuff to go through. And in case that is ever an issue or you have different setups, feel free to toggle with those. And you'll have to forgive me, I started kind of getting a sore throat and some congestion yesterday. So I hope that it doesn't linger too long. I feel better than I did yesterday, but if you see me kind of, or if I mute for a little bit and you don't know why, it's just I'm trying to make sure that I'm good for you guys. So forgive me for that and bear with me. But real quick, back to our mute and unmute. What I'm going to do actually right now, so just bear with me for a second. I'm going to unmute all of you on my end. And I just want you to make sure that you go back through then and mute yourself back up. So your microphone might turn green. And if it does turn green, just make sure that you turn it back to red. So I see a couple of you there. Yeah, got to green and you got yourself back on red, which is great. And Nancy, I just got you unmuted.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Yep. I got lost in there. Perfect. So there we go. And Tamika, it looks like you, I think you can hear me, but you're not connected to the audio. Just make sure if you open up this control panel that you're connected to the computer audio, that you have a mic and a speaker set up. Make sure that you're not connected to any audio elsewhere, either in a different web conferencing platform. If you don't, Tamika, it's okay if you can't unmute. I can just have you go through the questions box. Oh, looks like you got it. Okay, so I just unmuted you on this end. Perfect. Great, guys. I might have you unmute. Actually, we're going to introduce ourselves here in just a minute, just very briefly. The other thing that I'm going to have you use is raise your hand. Yep, I don't know who though. Phil, I think that was you.
This is Phil Seibel.
Phil Seibel.
Dr. Albert.
Perfect, guys. Yep, you're good. If you want to mute yourselves back up, I can hear you, and I'll have you.
Sure, it just didn't. Your system didn't unmute it. Just letting you know. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, last thing on this screen. Can you raise your hand? I'm going to use that to check in with you guys about my pacing, about making sure that you understand material. So find that, raise your hand, just put it up. When you see that it's a green arrow, that means you have the ability to put your hand up. So some of you are finding it. About half of us did that. Yep. Perfect. And you can put it down on your end, but I can also put everybody's hands down on my end. Wonderful. Last thing that I want to point out here before we actually start talking about some information, good information. Actually, we're going to get some introductions first. This questions box might be better for you if you don't feel comfortable unmuting and asking a question out loud, or what we can actually do is run a log on these questions box, which is nice for you guys in your project team to know kind of what questions were coming in, and that way you have a log of things that you might want to revisit at any point or at some point. But within that control panel, underneath the audio tab, you'll see enter a question for staff. And you could go ahead and do that. If you wanted to take a second to just put something in there to make sure that it works, feel free to do that now. If you're comfortable, don't worry about it. But I always like to give people the opportunity to make sure that they can find the questions box and put something in there. So if you wanted to take a few seconds to type anything in there, go ahead. Perfect. Good morning. Hey, David, I see yours. Thank you. And Patrice, yeah, Patrice, now that you're a panelist, you don't have the questions box really, you just have the chat. So you might see a little ellipses, guys, that pops up as well with a chat. Perfect. Phil, Tisha, I see yours. Michelle, Lori, good morning, guys. Thank you. Yeah, Michelle, two Michelle, sorry, Michelle Frazier, I saw yours. Michelle Booker, your test work. Leela, good morning. Great. Looks like we are pretty good with that. I have the ability to reply to those. I'm not going to reply to all of them right now, but I can reply to those and you'll see that little question pop up, question icon pop up on your control panel if you did get a response to your question. Perfect.
Hello.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Lynn Thompson is here with me because her audio isn't working on her computer. and I don't see my box disappeared. My question box disappeared. I hit something and it disappeared.
So, yep, if you, in this control panel where you just clicked unmute, right above that is that white arrow.
Yeah.
And that will open up the control panel where you should see this little questions tab. And that's where you'll be able to see that. But your control panel might close up and you'll only see the little gray bar every once in a while.
Yes.
Yep. But once you open it back up, you'll see all those other options. Great. Okay, guys, I think we should be good to just make sure we're on the same page here with our agenda. What we're getting, you guys are split into 2 sessions. This clinician session is a little bit longer than everybody else's. There's a lot of functionality, a lot of great functionality to cover. So what we'll be doing is staying and sticking in the PowerPoint for just a little bit longer. We're going to get some very, very quick introductions, and then we need to review some core concepts and terms, some things that are important to know about Credible language, what you'll see in the software, and things that you need to understand in the software before we actually get into the software. And then those last two bullet points are what we'll actually be doing when we hop in and get live demos within this in the software. So we'll look at fundamentals of records, both your employee record and client records, of course, and then we'll really dive into a lot of documentation and looking at those services and how they're going to be completed within Credible. Before we do that, this is a virtual training. It's sometimes hard to stare at a computer for so long, and it can get a little off-putting. So we always like to try to make it as personal as possible as we stare at a computer screen for several hours at a clip here. So like I mentioned at the very beginning, my name is Scott Shuttleworth. I'm a training specialist here at Qualifax. We just rebranded, so if I ever say Qualifax plus Credible, I apologize. That's the old company name. We are just Qualifax now using the Credible software. I was just checking the date, and today is actually my 1-year work anniversary. So I have been with the company for a year today, actually. Prior to this time, I was actually a teacher. I was in the public school system for 8 years, so I do have experience and expertise in the educational world. I slowly got to work. I was working with high school students, then I started working with my adult colleagues, providing professional development sessions, writing curriculum, and that's slowly what got me in my gears turning into kind of this big career change that got me here at Qualifax. So bringing that educational expertise to you is what I love to do, and using that to help you master this system so that you guys can continue to do and better serve the clients and patients that you do amazing things with every day. So I'm excited for that, and I would love to know just a little bit about you. 30 seconds or so with your name, with your role at the agency, and maybe just a quick fun fact. Mine is I said it a little bit earlier that I have a 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old Siberian Husky, who you might see if I'm on camera pop in and out. But if you don't mind, I'm just going to go down my list here. And actually, what I'm going to have you do, because we're slowly getting to kind of a large number here, what I prefer to do, now that I'm seeing there's about 16 of us, is if you could put that in the questions box. What I can do then is just read those out, and I might not read them all out right now. What I'll probably do is read a couple now, read a couple before we take a break, and then maybe catch up with those at the end as well. So if you wanted to take a minute or so, type in your name, your role, and a quick fun fact. And again, that questions box, just in case, you should be able to see this now. That questions box, if you open up the control panel here, you should see it as one of your little gray bars, and then you should be able to enter a question. So as those start coming in, I'll read them out. And if you could try to keep it into one message, all 3 points in one message, it's a little easier to read then. So I don't have to scroll back and forth. Okay, Tamika, welcome. Tamika says, Tamika is the Director of Operations for DC and Virginia, okay. And fun fact, Tamika is the only person that's actually on site. Yep, I am in the comfort of my own home today, Tamika, so you literally very much are the only person in an office. Wow. I don't know if that's fun or not, but thank you. David, thank you, David, therapist for the Maryland Hope Center. Oh, being born with extra fingers runs on his dad's side of the family. Very interesting. That is a fun fact I have not heard yet. David, did that affect you, or is that just something that does happen?
No sé dónde yo escribí.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, David.
Oh, well, I don't have the extra finger, but I have like these little, I guess you would say like nodules on the sides of my hand. So a lot of us either have the extra finger or they have that, and they have like the extra fingers aren't functional, so they usually have to have them removed.
Oh, interesting. Wow. Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Duong, I hope I said that right. If I didn't, please feel free to correct me, or please absolutely correct me. Billing supervisor, and you enjoy traveling? Absolutely, I'm with you. Okay, good morning to Phil. Phil's the medical director of VOA in DC. Fun fact, keeping with the four-legged theme. Oh, you have a family puppy named Deacon after the Wake Forest mascot. Awesome. Awesome, thank you, Phil. Lori said clinical director. Michelle is the MAT director. I love going on vacation. Oh, where there's blue water. Michelle, that's Michelle Frazier. That's where I need to be too. I wish I was. Charlotte, welcome. Billing specialist, you love to exercise. Charlotte, send me some of that energy.
Yo no puedo escribir, no sé dónde se escribe.
Say that again. Oh, okay. Michelle Booker, Director of Billing and Utilization Management. Fun fact, oh, cheerleading and track coach, awesome. Two kind of separate, I mean, they kind of happen in the same space, at least during the fall, but two very separate activities there, Michelle. Interesting. Leela, Crisis Stabilization Specialist. Fun fact, 2-year-old dog named, oh, Macchiato. I love a good macchiato. Leela. Great name. Lynn, Billing Specialist. Love to make people smile and laugh. I love it. Lori, only child. Okay, Lori, the said clinical director and only child. Right. Letitia, therapist at Maryland Hope Center. Fun fact, family and I have a pet cat, a ferret, chinchilla, and a turtle. Ooh, a whole zoo. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate you engaging in that. It's always nice to hear from you. And I said I was going to split that up, but it went pretty quickly. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for allowing me to get to know you a little bit. And I hope that it kind of makes you feel a little more comfortable as we go through the next few hours and part of tomorrow together as well. What I'm going to do though is turn my camera off so that you don't have to stare at me, but you can stare at what's important on the screen. And just to make sure we're on the same page here in terms of what to expect out of this, we looked at the agenda, but just know what we're going after here is a combination of live demonstration. So you'll see me clicking in the software in the GoToWebinar shared screen. You'll also be in the domain. You're going to be in your training domain. We're going to log into that in a few minutes here, and you'll be able to actually click into that. And there's going to be times where I'll pause and give you time to actually do what we just did. So whether it's completing a piece of documentation or adding a warning to a client's record, we'll take time every once in a while, not for every piece of functionality. Unfortunately, we don't have quite enough time for that, but there will be time and space for me to stop talking and for you to just practice what we did. Keep in mind, actually, before I say that last point there, with this live demo and hands-on practice, this is a really kind of important note to make, just because we are virtual. It's a challenge that we always want to point out that you just need to be aware of, and that is toggling. So if you don't have a second screen, what you'll have to do, and it's just a product of the circumstances right now, what you'll have to do is toggle back and forth between the GoToWebinar shared screen, so this little button here on your taskbar, and the actual domain that we'll get into. So you'll have to maybe watch what I'm doing for a little bit and then go back to your browser and click along. However you want to approach that, maybe you would rather take notes, maybe you would, maybe you just want to listen and you're okay with listening and clicking along. Just know that if you don't have a second screen, that can be a little bit challenging, and however you want to overcome that is good with me. And if you need me to slow down or repeat, definitely let me know. If you have a second screen, awesome. Then you can have me on one screen and your domain in another screen, and that saves that issue. But the last thing to know is that we're looking at functions that are based in Credible's best practice workflows. So I've learned a little bit about your agency. So I could speak to a couple little things here and there that I made notes of while I was working with Patrice in Geneva. But just know that generally this training is going to be functions based, based on our best practice workflows, and then you'll still be receiving some, I know Geneva and Patrice are working on times, and part of your project team, they're working on making sure you have internal training as well, so that you then understand how the function relates more to your specific role and your specific agency workflows, or even team and program specific workflows. Still setting the picture here in terms of software training. When we think about software training, it works best when you approach it with an attitude that says, I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna be successful at this. I know it can be scary, I know it can be daunting, I know it can be intimidating, all of those other words, but I'm here for you. The rest of the Credible team is here for you. Your project team is here for you. You have a lot of resources and help and support to get you there. So if you're feeling anxious or nervous, that's okay, but know that you're gonna get this, know that we're gonna help you get there. And the more that you can keep that attitude, the more that you can see yourself like this woman at the top of this mountain here, feeling successful, feeling confident, feeling accomplished. The more you can keep that in the forefront of your brain, the more successful you are going to end up being here. So again, we're here to help you. We know the software works. We know that it's gonna work for you. You just need to believe that and rely on us and support, help us support you if you do need that. Okay. Any questions, comments, or concerns, any issues with any of that before we actually start talking about some key terms here? Okay. If you do have questions, you can raise your hand up, put it in the questions box. Can always interrupt me as well. But looks like we're good. Okay. Some things to know before we actually hop in the software. The first is Teams. And what Teams do is drive access to view clients' charts. So you have several teams set up at VOA Some of them are DC based, some of them are Maryland based, some of them are based and kind of related to programs, which you'll see next. But what those teams do is, like I said, drive access to view client charts. And more specifically, it's a shared team between the client and the employee that allows for that access. So typically, for most of us, we will need to share a team, such as, these are just some examples from a fake training domain. But if I wanted to see a client who was on the intake team or the outpatient mental health adult team, I, as the employee, would also have to be on that team to be able to view them in the system and access their chart. There are some upper level kind of rights that allow some bypassing of that, but just know generally most of us will have to have a shared team in order to access a client's information. Those assignments are listed and housed within the client's profile, and your team assignments are listed and housed within your employee profile, which we'll see when we hop into the system. Just know that every employee and every client will be at least on one team. They can be up to all teams that exist in your system. The next concept is programs. Programs represent a collection of services, and program assignments then allow you as the staff member, you as the employee, to schedule or have a service scheduled for you and then subsequently complete that service for a client. So for example, if I wanted to complete an individual therapy session and complete a progress note, if that individual therapy session is part of the outpatient mental health program, then I need to be a part of the outpatient mental health program. My client then needs to be part of the outpatient mental health program, and then I'll be able to schedule that individual therapy session and then complete that individual therapy session. So you have many different programs set up at VOA, and you have some services that go between programs. So like that individual therapy might be in many and multiple programs, but you might have some services that are locked down to just your MAP program, or that are just locked down to your primary care program, that some people might only see if they're in that program. So that shared relationship, again, is important between the employee and the client. And just like teams, programs are housed and viewable within the client and the employee record. Just to drive that home, because they are two very important and sometimes confusing concepts. Key point, takeaway here is that teams drive access and security. Teams drive the ability to view a client's chart, and programs drive access to services. More specifically, it's that shared team or that shared program that really drives that. And the screenshot on the left-hand side, this is just a bigger view of a client's record. You can see that housing of the assignments on the bottom left. We'll see more of that in just a little bit. And then on the right-hand side, as we start to schedule services, there's this service type drop-down in the scheduler window. And if you're on multiple programs, or if your client's in multiple programs, you'll see many different services, but they all have that program abbreviation on the left-hand side here. So that's a key point to remember. I'll point that out again when we hop into software. Just a few more key points here, and then I'll ask for questions and make sure we're good. I've been using the term services. It's a fairly common term, but just to make sure we understand it within Credible's world, services are what actually create access to documentation. So I mentioned that individual therapy session. Your individual therapy service is what creates access to the progress note that you'll then complete and fill out. The screenshot on the right-hand side is of same idea, but with a group therapy session. The other thing to understand about services within Credible is that every client-facing, every client-related activity or piece of documentation is considered a service within Credible. So all of your billable services that you'll be completing as clinicians, assessments, progress notes, all of those. But on top of that, all of the non-billables, so releases of information, consents to treats, all of those are also considered services within Credible, and they'll all be housed and kept on the client's record. Speaking of housing of information, we also have episodes, which is another common term, but just to understand it in the context of Credible. Episodes are, of course, measuring a time period of care within a particular program. And the episode is going to capture all of the data that happens from admission to discharge. So all of those services, the services we were just talking about, anything that gets completed that's a service will then end up getting housed and kept within this episode information. That and extra data that your agency has configured to be captured within episodes. And we'll just glance at those. I don't think you guys, from my understanding, will edit too much of it, but we'll just take a glance at and see what information is in there. What you just need to know about episodes on top of that is that for every program that a client is in, they will have a corresponding active episode. So the example on the left-hand side there, Phil has 2 episodes, 1 active and 1 closed. He was put into the intake program, so he had an intake episode from June 2nd to June 15th. He got discharged from intake and now has an active episode in the outpatient program starting on the 16th. So that's an example of 1 closed and 1 active, but if Phil was in multiple programs at the same time, he could have multiple active episodes as well. This isn't necessarily a key term, but we will cover some Credible resources at the very end. And Patrice, if I forget, I have it noted down, I have it written down, but sometimes by the end, my mind just, is somewhere else. I forget, call me out on it, or anybody, really. If I don't go through the Credible resources, somebody call me out.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. So we have some great Credible resources, our knowledge base, our learning management system. But like I said before, when we were talking about defining success, you have a lot of great people around you. You have a great project team. You're going to have, eventually you're going to have EHR administrators that are certified, that they'll go through a training, so you'll be able to rely on them. But you have colleagues, you have people next to you who might also get something that you didn't, and you might know something that they don't know. And so we're gonna always ask you to help each other out, rely on each other, and use your resources that are around you to make sure, again, pulling it back to that defining success, to make sure that you feel comfortable, that you feel confident, and that you feel like you have a really strong mastery of this software so that you can be successful with your clients and your patients. Okay, that was a lot of information. We are just about to hop into the domain, but I want to make sure I leave time for questions about any of that. Teams, programs, services, episodes. Feel free to raise your hand, unmute, put something in the questions box. Okay. If you haven't noticed, we like pictures here to create some analogies. And this is one of my favorites because we are about to get into your training domain. But before we do that, what you need to know is that your training domain is a copy over of your production domain. So that means you're going to see real data. You're going to see real clients. You're going to see relevant information up to whatever has been entered into your live system to when it was copied over. It was copied over, I think, late last week or Monday. So anything that was entered and updated in the live domain up to that point has been copied over, and now we have a training domain. We call it a sandbox. We use this picture because your training domain is just like a sandbox. You can dig into it, you can build it up, you can knock it down, but you're not going to break it. You're not going to affect anything. It's not going to mess up anything. It does not communicate. The training domain does not communicate with your production domain at all. So if you want to get into, which we will, we're going to get into client records, but if you get in that client record and you want to add 12 diagnoses and 13 warnings and update their address to something that totally makes zero sense and click buttons that you've never seen before, do it. Experiment with it, see what happens, get your hands dirty, and use the system in the training domain. Don't do that in your production domain, okay? But when you're in the TRN domain, do what you need to do to make it work and to get an understanding of the system. With all that said, because you haven't hit your go live date, there are still some things that might not be quite finished yet. We might run into a form that has a weird question in it. We might run into a piece of configuration that isn't quite done yet, or might have just gotten overlooked, or maybe it's being worked on in the production domain and just didn't get copied over yet. That is absolutely feasible. We run into that all the time, and that's okay. Please let us know when that happens. We'll make note of it just to make sure that it is being handled in the production domain. So lots of things to think about here, but key point, dig away, build it up, tear it down, do what you need to feel comfortable in your domain. So at this point then, what we need to do, what I need from you is to open a browser. If you have Google Chrome, Google Chrome and Credible tend to work best together. So if you have the ability, please open Google Chrome. If not, feel free to open any other browser that you have. And when you do that, you're going to go to crediblebh.com. The BH is important because if you don't, you're just going to go to our corporate website. So you'll want to make sure you go to crediblebh.com. When you get to crediblebh.com, you're going to be brought to a screen that looks that has a little login box that looks like the screenshot on the right-hand side of my shared screen. Your username should be first initial, last name. Sometimes those get a little weird. So if you run into any issues, let me know. But typically, it should just be first initial, last name. The password initially will be cred with a capital C 2022 and an exclamation point. Both the capital C and the exclamation point are important. And that domain is crucial as well. MD for Maryland, VOACI Volunteers of America, Chesapeake Incorporated, and TRN for training. It's long, I know, but it is very important that we enter that, especially with the TRN at the end. Once you enter that temporary password, you will be brought to a screen that asks you to change your password. And that's the password that you're going to want to remember, because that's the password you'll use to log into the domain every time. Okay, that's great to know. Patrice, thank you. Some of you, Patrice, let me know that some of you already changed your passwords, which is great. So then hopefully you remembered what that was. You entered it and you're already in your training domain. I did just get a message here from Letitia that yours wasn't working. So Letitia, just pause real quick, and that's a good note. If you are having issues, don't try more than like 3 times, or you'll get, I think it's 5 maybe. There's a number where once you hit that number, it'll lock you out. So if you are having issues, just pause. I'll help you out here. So Letitia and Tamika, let me look here. If you are having issues like the others did, just pop it in the questions box, or feel free to unmute. The questions box would be better. Uh-oh, okay. Lots of crazy things. Oh, a lot of you are having issues. Okay. Let's double check one thing here before I start resetting too many passwords. Double check for me that your domain has the TRN at the end. Double or triple check that you have the domain MDVOACITRN. Definitely want to check that first, because if you're trying to log into the production domain, that'll cause some issues first. So double check that. And if that's still not working, do that. Also remember that if you logged in already, your password. Yep. So Valerie, that's a good point too. Your production domain and your training domain, remember, they don't communicate, so they're going to end up being 2 separate passwords. So if you're trying to use the password that you created for just VOACI, you'll have to log in here into the TRN with this temporary password first, or the separate password. So what I'm going to do actually is actually type that domain name into the chat. So you should have just gotten a little chat bubble with the MDVOACITRN. And I'm going to go back up through here and just check out these issues. So Letitia, it looks like your username actually is LA Hunt. So that might be your issue. So Letitia, try that, and then let me keep going through here. Tamika. All right, let me do a lot of stuff here. So I'm just checking that. All right. Okay, Tamika, I just sent you, what I'm going to end up doing for all of you is changing it to password 1. If it's not working. If that Cred 2022 is not working for you, I just typed it on the screen and refreshed my screen. I put password 1 exclamation point capital P. Okay, I didn't change it for everybody yet, so I got to Tamika. So far, okay, Tamika, it worked for her. So let me keep going down through. If I didn't say your name yet, I didn't change it. Just know that it's going to end up being that password 1 here in just a second. Okay, sorry about all this. Sometimes this just happens when we get copies. And okay, we should go to. If you are in, feel free to click around, have some fun getting in there. Dong, I'm changing yours right now as well. All right, Dong, yours is changed to that password 1 capital P exclamation point that's on the screen. Charlotte, what's Lynn's last name?
Thompson.
Can you say that again?
Thompson.
Hudson.
Thompson.
Hobson.
Thompson.
Whew, got it. Third try. Thank you.
Mine isn't working either.
Oh, yours is in either? Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Lynn, yours, it looks like, is LY Thompson, so that might be part of it.
I
I
tried
tried
with
with
that also.
LY as well.
You tried that as well. Okay, got it. So then let me do the password 1 reset, and then you should be. So it is LY though, Thompson, but Lynn, yours is changed. Let's do yesterday. Charlotte, would it be under a different last name?
Easterday. EASTERDAY.
Yeah, you're not in there.
I'm sorry, Charlotte?
Yeah,
said?
Charlotte.
Yes.
Yeah, Charlotte's not in the system right now.
Would it be, you said Thompson?
No, Charlotte Easterday.
Okay, let's check in. No, Sue just added her yesterday.
So if she got added yesterday, she probably got added to the production domain
Yeah,
and didn't get copied over.
okay,
So I can add her really quickly.
okay. Thank you. I'm sorry for this. We should have checked this before.
It's all good. As long as you guys bear with me, we could get this done here in just a few minutes. Not a problem, not a problem. I just need to know what team, what just primary team should Charlotte be on?
She's in billing, so it doesn't matter. She will eventually be everywhere in Maryland, so you
Everywhere.
can put her anywhere.
I'm gonna put Baltimore for right now, and okay, log in, billing. Okay, Charlotte, you should be good to log in.
Yep, I'm there. Thank you.
Great. You're very welcome. Thank you again, everyone, for bearing with me. David, I'm coming to you next. I'm going to update your password. Password 1, capital P, and exclamation point. I didn't type it the same though. Okay. David Belton, you are good. Phil, I saw you next. I just want to make sure nothing else came in there.
Hi, yeah.
Hey, Phil. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were still.
Yes, I'm still with us. So again, I guess you're going to change my password, correct?
I am again in the TRN. I was just looking at your other message.
Okay, well, again, I only did it one time. What would you, please tell me what you'd like me to do?
Yep, I'm just going to update it to that password 1.
Okay.
An exclamation just to change it and let me know if that worked.
Okay.
Booker.
Okay.
Okay. So Phil, just let me know. I'm just trying to go through here too. So Michelle.
Sure.
Booker. Michelle, did you try MI Booker?
I tried that one as well.
You did? Okay, so it is MI Booker for sure, but let me still update password. My fingers are trying to go too fast. Keep typing it wrong. Password.
You know when you want me to get back to you.
Phil, are you good?
It actually just popped up, please change your password. That's what I got.
Which is perfect, because now you're going to change it to something that you'll remember.
Oh, this is for the new system. I'm giving a new password now.
So this is for the training domain. So this will be the password specifically for training domain.
Okay.
And Michelle Booker, you should be changed and good. Leela, I think you had another message in here. Yeah. So Leela, again, the training domain and the production domain are going to be separate. So you'll have separate passwords here, but Leela, let me change yours. Update. Okay, Leela, updated to password 1, capital P exclamation. Roseberg, sorry. Valerie Roseberg. Yeah, you are showing up as Valerie, so that's somebody else's name. Yeah, I'm just a little confused. So Hannah Van Wy and Valerie Roseberg.
Yes. What were you asking?
Yeah, sorry, I had to get my question straight there. So those are 2 separate people?
Yes.
Okay, and Hannah, you're just logged in as Valerie's.
Oh, they maybe
I
on.
think she might just be logged in as Valerie. I'm just trying to.
Mm-hmm.
Get those 2 things. Okay. Van Wy. So Hannah, can you just let me know? For training domain. And this, just to triple check. So Valerie is the one with the issue. Okay. Got it. Valerie, changing yours. Updating to password 1. Oh, great, Phil. I just saw your message. Good.
Oh,
Valerie,
good, yeah.
you're updated. Thank you, everybody, again, for your patience. Uh-oh, Leela. Okay, and I see Hannah too. So Hannah Van Wy, let me change yours as well. So just remember, guys, once you change this password, you'll want to remember that password, because then you'll use that, whatever you updated it to, something that you'll remember, whatever you updated it to, that's what you'll use to log into the training domain every time. And your training domain password is going to be different. Yeah, Phil, that's good. So your training domain password, the TRN, if you look in the upper left-hand corner when you see TRN, that's a separate training domain that doesn't communicate with your production domain. So if you're just in MDVOACI, that's a separate password. Now, feasibly, you could have made it the same password so that you remembered it. But if you didn't, they are two separate and distinct domains. So they're possibly two separate and distinct passwords. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. Okay. Hannah, you should have been good. Hannah Van Y should be good. And Leela, it's technically not a full 15 minutes that you get locked out. So you might just have to watch for a few minutes, and then we'll revisit that in a little bit. I hate to say that, but in like 5 or 6 minutes, Leela, we'll check it out. Okay, I think I got everybody. Did I miss? Yeah, Duong, you got two. Letitia, I think I did reset yours. You could definitely just try once with the password 1. Yeah, let's do one last check here. Duong, because you did message me a few minutes ago, Duong, try that password 1, capital P exclamation. If that one doesn't work. Okay, Letitia, so let me. Oh, great, Duong's good. Letitia, let me update you. Remember your LA Hunt. I'm just going to. Letitia, I made yours just different, just in case something got weird there. I made it credible, full credible, and I'm sending it to you in a question box here. Credible 1 exclamation, capital C, full word credible, capital C, 1 exclamation. And that should be good. And then I think we got everybody. We got Duong, we got Letitia, Leela. We'll check in with you in a minute. Just want to make sure it gives it time to reset. All right, Tisha, I'm coming on camera for just a second because I like literally just did that and you couldn't see it. I was very excited. So I'm glad that we're good. I just wanted you to see my excitement that we're good. And I'm gonna hop back off camera. Hopefully got you excited again to get back in the system here and really get into and dive into our training. Make note that you change that password. Obviously, don't leave it on a sticky note right on your computer desk, but oh, okay, I did miss one, and I'm so sorry. Olusi? I'm gonna mess that up. I apologize so much, but I'm gonna update that. password 1. Lucia, you should be updated. And then Diamond, you're going to, again, you're going to be, make sure you put the TRN at the end. Hey, Phil, can you click the mute button real quick?
Sorry?
Can you click the mute button real quick, Phil?
Oh, I apologize. Sure.
Okay, there was just some, I think you might have been typing, there's some background noise there. And Diamond, yours should be the, if you haven't logged into the TRN domain, it'll be this temporary password first. Correct, yeah, and you did not change, yeah, you haven't changed anything about the production domain, your regular Credible password. Your production domain, I think, is what you're talking about, Phil, which is just MDVOACI.
Yes, yes.
Yep. You haven't changed that at all. They don't communicate. You haven't touched that. That is still the same password that you used before. So Olucia, let me know if you're good, and Diamond, let me know that you're good too. What I am going to do though is start to give you guys an overview of what's happening here. I'll keep a close eye on the questions box though, just to make sure we're good. And remember, these are recorded as well, so if we are missing anything, you can always come back and revisit. You will definitely want to make sure that you're in the TRN domain. Yeah, the TRN is really important. Oh, Vanessa. What's Vanessa's last name? Oh, what's Vanessa's last name? Thank you. Yeah, I didn't reset Vanessa. I didn't remember seeing that one. We'll update her password 1, exclamation, capital P. So she should be good. Vanessa, I see your hand up. I just reset you to password 1, capital P, exclamation point, and that should. I've gotten you.
Hey, I'm trying to log in now. Capital P, password, 1, exclamation point. So is my username still, oh, hold on 1 second.
Here we go. All right.
Good question.
Okay.
Yeah, your V Valdez. Pretty sure.
Okay, yeah, it's not working. I'm gonna mute myself, but it's not.
And you have you're typing in the training domain as is, MDVOACITRN.
Yes, MDVOACITRN.
Yep, so what's gonna happen, so that should work because it took me, I just logged in as you. It should take you to this screen here, which is where you'll set it to the password that you want it to be. So you should type in exactly
Exclamation point. Okay.
capital P, password 1, exclamation. It's gonna take you to this screen here where you'll reset it to something that you'll remember.
No, they converted.
Yeah, I just had Diamond try it. It's not working for me. I don't know.
What's
Let me
happening?
double check the domain.
Yeah,
It just says username or password does not match.
Caps lock isn't on. I know that's a stupid question, but yeah, double check because I have swapped the C and the
That's what
I.
I was on.
Yeah, I saw that you were able to log in, and I just had Diamond try it. She's sitting next to me, and it gave us the same error message. And no, the caps lock is not on.
And then
We're trying it again.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Are you in what browser are you in?
Google Chrome.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that rules that out.
Okay, Diamond logged me in. I'm changing my password now. Thank you.
Awesome. You're so welcome. Fraser, because I know this is taking a while. I appreciate your patience. Michelle, you are MK Fraser. Did you try that one?
I've tried them all with the K and without, with Credible as well as password 1, and it won't let me get in.
Okay, so I'm going to change it. It's going to be the full word Credible, capital C. And let me type it on. I'm going to type it in the questions box. So username, so you could just copy and paste, is MK. Okay, Fraser, password is Credible 1 exclamation, and domain is MDVOACI. So I just said that all to you. Hopefully you can just copy and paste it.
Okay.
Michelle?
All right, I'll do that. Thank you.
You're welcome. And remember, you will have to change it, so you'll be prompted to do that once you log in. All right. Awesome, guys. Let's get rolling here. Thank you once again for your patience, everyone. I really, really appreciate it. Hopefully, if you logged in, you got a chance to click around a little bit and understand. So if you did kind of stray away.
May I ask one quick question?
Come on back.
Sorry, Bill.
Go ahead.
That is that, again, this is the Credible training module, of course. I've actually been trying to sign on to see if I still can get on to, quote, old Credible, and it's only bringing me to the training module.
Okay, so if you're in the train, let's save that, Phil, because if you're in the training domain, that's perfect for what we need right now. And then when we get to the end, if we have a little extra time, I'll try to.
I'm going to need to be able to continue to see people. Okay, so that's going to be high priority for me about that. Okay.
I understand, but we have we have an agenda
I know.
to move through, so I just want to make sure that we have time to get to all of that. Lori, what's up? What's happening? You still can't get in the training domain?
How about we do this? Anybody in the VOACC team that still can't get into the training domain, send me a Teams message so that Scott can go along with the meeting, okay? And I'll work with you in Teams to get in.
I appreciate that, Patrice.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. If you strayed away from your home tab or from the browser generally, go ahead and find your way back, please, to your training domain. And when you are logged in, you are always going to be initially brought to this home tab. And I say tab because there are tabs across the top. That's what we call them. So think T for top, T for tabs. Tabs are across the top. You might not see exactly what I see. You might not see exactly what your neighbor sees. And that is because we have different profile codes. Different profile codes allow you to see different things in the system. So just keep that in mind as we explore different parts of the system. I might have something on my screen that you don't have, and vice versa, and that is okay. However, if it's something that you feel like you should be or should have access to based on your role at the agency, definitely let us know and we'll make note of that. But the other tabs that you see across the top are the client, employee, schedule, and service, which we'll get a chance to go into as we go through the training. Some tabs that you might not see, or some of us might and might not, are the admin, billing, reports, and forms tab. On the left-hand side of the home screen, you have different widgets. We call them widgets. They're in those little faint blue boxes. That first one is a quick search. And we call it a quick search because it only is going to be based on last name or ID number. You do have more powerful search functionality in the client tab and the employee tab. Lori, I see that message. Can you reach out to Patrice through Teams? And Patrice hopefully should be able to get you set up and make sure that you are functioned. And these are recorded again, so you'll have time to be able to go back through here. You do have, again, more powerful search functionality in the actual client tab and the employee tab. Below the search widget is the employee messaging widget. We do have to turn on functionality in order for you to message. So if you open up that drop down, right now you'll see that it's based on Teams. Once we turn employee messaging on though, it will be in the employee, you will be listed as an employee. But if you don't see yourself here, or if you don't see your colleague here, that's because they didn't turn employee messaging on in their employee profile, which we'll do in a little bit. The widget below that is the to-do list items. The to-do list is kind of like a modern day or a virtual sticky note. Think about it like a virtual sticky note. If I have something that I need to get completed, I can add a to-do list item, and we'll do that in just a little bit. But I want to give you the overview first here. Super big. Like zoomed in too far?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody else, but I can't see what you're doing. I'm literally only seeing Credible and log out with your name and the time.
Oh, that's weird. Interesting. Let me switch monitors.
That's it. There you go.
Is that better?
Much better.
Okay, interesting. Interesting, okay. So let me, I think, yeah, something weird might have been happening over there. I'm gonna zoom back in a little bit there, so we should be good. Continuing with our overview here, there's a widget for incomplete services. You might not see that yet because you haven't actually done anything in the domain. Once you start to complete services or get in and begin a service, if you don't finish it, if you don't sign and submit it is what it's called, you will get a list of incomplete services. Below that is a widget for links. These have been configured for you by your agency, links that they found or thought might be useful for you. And then the last two relate to authorizations. You may or may not see authorization related information depending on your profile code, but you might see some critical auths, meaning that they are either below or above the anticipated pace. And then there's also a widget, a separate widget for authorizations that are actually expiring or soon to be expiring. On the right-hand side, you're going to see a lot of overview information. Once again, based on your profile code and your role at the agency, you may or may not see what I have. I see some prescription messages and some pending orders, so if that's something that you would need to see, you would have the appropriate rights to do so. What you will start to notice is that once you add to-do items, they will start to pop up on the right-hand side. Once we add one, you'll see that. And then below are notification events. So there are things called notification triggers within Credible. And when notification triggers get configured, they can be sent to specific teams or specific individuals based on an event that happens in the system. And if you have something that is configured that you need to know about, that will pop up here for you. Once you begin to have scheduled items, once things are put on your schedule or you schedule them yourself, you'll get an overview of your schedule here. Your primary schedule is on the schedule tab. So the bigger, more viewable schedule is on the schedule tab. This is just an overview here on the home tab. Does anybody have any questions about the home tab? Patrice, I want to make sure Lori reached out to you as well. Were you able to help Lori Williams?
No, Lori didn't reach out to me, but Leela isn't working, so I'm gonna have her sign in as me.
Okay.
Yeah. But continue.
Okay. I was just debating there for a second. Thank you. Great. If we are good with the home tab, then what we're going to do, what I need you to find is your logged in as name, your username in the upper right hand corner. So below where the little Credible logo is, below where it says log out, there's a little link that has your username. If you hover to discover, if you hover over it, it says my record. Click on that and it's going to take you to your employee record. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time in here, but we are going to do a couple things. Just giving it a second to make sure everybody did that. I'll repeat it one more time just to make sure. I clicked on my username, my logged in as, in the upper right hand corner. And that took me to my employee record. When you get to your employee record, on the left-hand side, you'll see what's called the navigation bar. We call it the nav bar for short. What you want to understand about the nav bar, number one, is that it allows and provides access to different parts of your record. The second thing that you want to know about this is that it shows up, or a version of the nav bar shows up in a client's record as well. Those are the two places where you're going to see the nav bar, in an employee record and in a client record. If I just click on the employee tab or just click on the client tab, that nav bar disappears. I have to actually be in a client record or in an employee record. So on that nav bar, you can play around with the different aspects of your nav bar, teams, programs. What we're going to do though is focus in on this config link, because I want you to be able to turn on your messaging. So go ahead and click on that. I'll give you a second to find that. And once you're in the config link, you should see employee config across the top. You should see your name listed there across from employee config. There's a lot of things that you can do with this. I'm going to take your eyes though to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th checkbox down though. that says Credible Employee Messaging. That's what allows us to actually send and receive credible internal messages. You could play around with different things here. You could play around with one thing that you might want to look at is the default start and end for your schedule. That doesn't change necessarily what time or whether or not people can schedule for you, but it just might narrow down your schedule view so that you're seeing, you know, a shorter chunk of time instead of from 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. Typically, though, what we do is turn on employee messaging in here and click the update employee config button. If you don't remember anything else from this training, which I hope you do, and you will, but if for some reason nothing else sticks in your head, what you do need to remember is update, save, complete, or add. Those are the phrases, the terms that will save your work. You're always looking for a button on the screen to save your work, and it will be a version of that. Update, save, complete, or add. In this case, it is update employee config. And that's what's going to save our employee messaging link or our employee messaging configuration. I'll be able to test this in just a little bit when we get back to the home page or the home tab and see who actually turned it on. Yeah, Phil, definitely check the Credible Employee Messaging checkbox so that it is checked. And if you need to scroll or just find at the bottom of the page where it says update, you can turn that on and save it right now. Okay. The other thing, actually two other things we're going to do in our employee record very quickly. The second is the signature link. So back over on the nav bar, under where it says config, you'll see where it says signature. Click on that link. And what you should see is exactly what I have on my screen. You should see an employee box with a big green button in it that says capture signature. Go ahead and click capture signature. And that's going to bring up another pop-up for you. And this is where you can actually use your mouse to sign and put your signature and capture your signature. And why is this important? Why are you doing this? Because anytime you sign and submit a piece of documentation, as long as your signature is saved here in your employee record, you won't have to actually physically sign every single time. The system will just pull this signature and slap it onto your documentation. I always feel like a second grader when I'm trying to sign with my mouse here. It looks like a second grader signed it, so don't worry if it does on your end too. Nobody's judging you on that. At least I'm not judging you on that, so make it look as pretty or as ugly as you need to. You can always preview it if you'd like, but I always go to accept without preview because it's not going to get any prettier. And that's what saves your signature. If you are a supervisor, and this is a note that you'll just want to make for yourself and bring to your project team. If you're a supervisor, you should also have a supervisor box here. And this is when if you begin to approve services as a supervisor, that supervisor signature is what gets added. If you don't see that supervisor checkbox or signature box and you are a supervisor, just make note of that and make sure that you bring that to your project team so that we can make sure that you get that checkbox, signature box. There is one other thing we're actually going to go into in the employee record, and it's of course back over on the nav bar, and that is the work hours link. So find yourself over to the work or to the nav bar where it says work hours. It's a little clock icon. And when you do that, it brings you to assign employee work hours. That's what it should say across the top. You'll see the days of the week, and you'll see that you have 2 start and end times. You don't have to use both, but we are going to input some hours here. Why is this important? Why do I need to enter my work hours? It's a visual for anybody who's scheduling for you. They'll be able to see these work hours as a visual, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a little bit. Just know that it is a visual reminder for anybody who's scheduling for you to know kind of what your typical work hours are. It doesn't necessarily prohibit somebody from scheduling outside of those hours, but at least it gives anybody scheduling for you a general idea of when to schedule. It is not related to like your payroll or anything like that. It is really just for scheduling purposes. And on that scheduling note, the biggest key point, the other big key point here to know why you should have or why you would want work hours here is that there's a functionality called first available that your front desk may use to schedule. And what that does, it literally looks for the first available appointment based on parameters that they input. But you as the employee must have work hours entered for the system to have something to pull from. So for front desk to be able to use first available functionality, you as the employee must have work hours entered in here. So 2 key reasons why that's important for you. In terms of actually entering them, it's pretty simple. We're just going to open up our drop downs. You do have to do a little bit of scrolling. That's the only unfortunate part. They're 15-minute intervals. So you'll choose your start time. If you just want to put it as one big block time from 9 to 5, you can do that. So that's what I'm going to do first. 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. However, if I know I typically have like a lunch break in there, or if I have travel time, that's when I can use the 2 start and end times to represent that. So let's say I have a 9 a.m. start time, but I have a lunch or travel break. So I'll do my first chunk of time from 9 to 12. And then maybe my lunch break is from 12 to 1, so I'll just leave that blank, and I'll put my second start time as 1 p.m. And maybe on Tuesdays I go from 1 to 6 because I have that hour break in there, or at least 5:30 maybe. Again, this little block in the middle wouldn't prohibit somebody from scheduling during that hour time, and we've talked about this with your project team. There are other ways we could actually block time off, but this would at least give a visual reminder to say, hey, please try not to schedule during that time, or at least contact me first if you would need to schedule in that hour that I have separate there. Just because I'm training the rest of the week, I'm going to put in, actually I'll wait till Wednesday to do that. As always, find your save button, update, save, complete, or add. Click save. That's what's going to save for you. before I pause for questions here, there is a resource schedule. This is something that your project team just wanted me to point out. It exists. I don't think you have anything configured in there yet. Yeah, you don't just yet, which is okay. So if you click in there, you're not going to see anything. But just know that this might be something that you might use down the road. And this is something that might be useful for like workrooms that you might need to sign out, games that you might need to sign out, things, small things that your agency has that you might need to share and sign out at different times. This is what the resource schedule will do. It is, again, not configured for you yet, but it is something that your project team is considering to use down the road. So just know that exists in your employee record. Patrice, can you, by recurrent, do you mean, well, let me say this first. Once I enter work hours, it's going to be, those work hours are going to stay there every week, for every week, unless I would change them. That
Valerie had a question, but she said that her she can't unmute herself anymore to ask questions, and her chat box disappeared.
talking about appointments.
So she said that answers her question.
When we get to scheduling, go ahead.
She said that answers her question. She can't access
now,
the
so
chat box.
I'll go ahead and show you. Perfect. Oh, okay. Thank you for speaking for her, Valerie. I apologize, you can't see that, but just so you all know that that is a good question, and it is good to know too. The visual that I'm talking about, if you click on your schedule tab, you'll see now that you have a little gray bar, and that gray bar is that visual representation that I'm talking about. And that little gray bar, we'll cover the schedule much more in depth, but just since we're talking about it, if you click the arrows and go from week to week, those gray bars will stay there. That schedule will stay there until you change it. Any other questions? If you happen to click out of that, again, we were just in our employee record by clicking our logged in as name. Any lingering questions, anything you need to see again, comments, questions, concerns about that config link, signature, anything in our employee record? Okay, fantastic. Let's finish up this little section and go back to the home tab. There's two things we're going to do on the home tab now that we're done with the overview. First, let me check this. Awesome. This looks great, guys. Sometimes I do this, and so 100 points to all of you for actually turning on your employee messaging. Sometimes I do this in trainings, and I go through that whole process, and then I don't see any names here. And I mute myself and sigh very loudly, to say the least there. But you guys did a great job. Thank you for doing that. Let's test that out. This employee messaging, now that we're back on the home tab, allows you to send a quick message to somebody. Maybe you need to let them know that that a client is here and waiting for them, or maybe you're sending them to a different part of the agency, or maybe you just need to handle a quick question. However you use this is really up to you as the agency. Vanessa, I see your question, and I'll come back to that, okay? But what you do in order to send that message is either click an entire team or an individual. If you want to send it to yourself, go ahead. That way you can actually see it pop up. Or if you want to send it to me, if you're looking at my screen, you can send it to me so you can pop up. I love getting messages, or if you feel like messaging another colleague, feel free. but go ahead and practice sending one at least. I'm going to send it to myself. So I selected myself from the drop down. I'll click the send button. And what that does is pops up your little messaging window. And this is what I could type. Or this is where I can actually type my little message here. Okay. Just be careful to not put, I don't want to say not put, because if you need to, you need to, but just be very careful about PHI here, because we don't always know who's looking at the screen at the time. You know, another colleague might be looking over this employee's shoulder at their screen. They might have a client in the space looking at their screen. So just be very careful about what you put in here. Because you don't know who's looking at the screen or who might be overlooking at the screen at that time. And know too that these are logged for 90 days. Sorry, I had to think for that number. For 90 days in your employee record, but then they fall off forever into the HIPAA logs. So Patrice, I'm going to pick on you for just a second. We don't want to put in here, oh my God, Patrice wore the same sweatshirt again today, et cetera, et cetera. Like, Patrice, I know that you didn't.
How did you know?
I was going to say, I have no idea, you might be. But we want to be careful about anything like that. Of course, you guys will use this professionally, but we always like to say, just keep in mind, any supervisor or administrator could come in and look at those and see those messages. So when you're ready, you could go ahead and just click the send button. And it does take a minute. It has to go through all those channels. It has to go through the domain and the internet. It's not quite as quick as like instant messaging as Facebook Messenger, but it can be useful for you. And Valerie brought up a great point. Just as a reminder, oh, Duong, thank you for the message. I got a test message from Duong, so you can see that if you happen to be looking at my shared screen, my message popped up as well. You will have to click OK to dismiss the message. A couple things about those messages, and Valerie, then I'll answer your question. If you're not logged in at the time, the message will still send, but the person who isn't logged in will then just get however many messages got sent to them at once. They'll all pop up and you'll be able to scroll through all of them once you log back in. So you can feasibly send a message to somebody who's not logged in. They'll then just see it the next time that they do log in.
I have a question. Where would the messages be? Like, are they archived somewhere in the system for you to go and see them?
Yes. Yes, sorry, a couple other things popped in as we were saying that, as you asked that question. So number one, Vanessa, I love it, terrific Tuesday. Thank you for that message. Let me come back to your question, Patrice, because the first question here was, I didn't see all of the available employees. That's because they haven't turned it on yet. And that's just because you're my first group, really. So you're really only going to see anybody in this group today who has turned it on. Once I go through the afternoon training and the rest of the days of training, you'll see more people in your training domain who have actually gone to their record and turned it on. So again, you will only see employees in the dropdown who turned their messaging on. Duong, did you click send broadcast message by any chance? Yeah, okay, so that's a good point. That's exactly why that happened. He asked, why did it go to everyone and not myself? If you click this send broadcast message, you want to be very careful about that, because it will literally send it to everybody in the system that has messaging turned on. So we really definitely want to be careful about that. You're welcome. So just this single send button is what's going to send it to the individual or the team that you selected in the dropdown. other question. Hopefully that answered. Oh, Valerie, though you should see me. It's weird that you don't see me, though sometimes we do have weird issues where you don't see the credible employees. You only see your VOA employees. So as long as you're seeing your VOA employees, then we're okay there, Valerie. Yeah, Phil, you don't see me either. Yeah, that has happened in other trainings, and it's just you're just not seeing the credible employees, and that's okay, as long as you're seeing the other. Another good question, Valerie. Great. No, you do not have to turn employee messaging on every time. However, what I do want to point out is that, remember, this is your training domain. The training domain and the production domain do not communicate. So when you go to your production domain, so the domain that doesn't have the TRN at the end, you will have to turn it on just once there again, but I did just want to make that clear. You'll also have to do that with your signature and all that. Good questions here, guys. Actually, somebody asked a question about signature earlier, and I'll come back to that. Phil, are you good? I think you saw. Yeah, you sent yourself a message.
Yeah, it's all good, yes.
Okay, perfect. Back though to Patrice's question. Patrice said, where are they housed? Perfect question. And they are housed back in your employee record. So if you happened to get a ton of messages and didn't get a chance to read all of them or remember them, or just needed to reference them again, click into your employee record. Quickest way, of course, is clicking your name in the upper right-hand corner. And then in the bottom left, really important, they're two separate things. Messaging, actually, sorry, message log is where you're going to see all of the messages that have been sent to you or that you have sent. So again, your record, message log, and that's where that will be housed. That answers that question. I'm just checking. I went silent for a second because I'm just checking the questions box again. Got that. Okay. And Duong asked, can we send a message along with an attached file or screenshot? So unfortunately not. That would be a great upgrade. I would love to make note of that and take it to our developers. But right now, no, Credible does not allow you to send a message with an attachment. But we do have an attachments link on the client's navbar and the employee navbar that we'll talk about. And again, he asked if we could delete messages or how do I delete them? You can't. And that's probably a good thing. I mean, when we're talking about working with clients and having, working with personal information and all of that, we want to make sure that what we're sending and receiving in this domain stays professional, and we wouldn't want to be careful to not send anything that we would want to delete, because it will stay here. Again, it'll stay in the log for 90 days. Once they fall off after those 90 days, they will still stay in the HIPAA log, the global HIPAA log forever. Okay. So Lori, I can walk you through that real quick. Lori, if you just want to look here or take a note here, you're going to go to your record where your logged in name is, my record. On the nav bar, go to config. and then click Credible Employee Messaging, the checkbox for it. Once you click the checkbox, you'll click Update Employee Config. And that will save it for you. What we're going to do next, though, everybody, is go back to that Home tab one more time. Before we take a quick break here, let's add a to-do list item for ourselves. Yeah, Patrice, we can definitely do that on a break. And I really apologize, Lori and Leela. I don't know. Don't know what's happening there, but we'll get you set, and hopefully you were able to take some notes, and you can always come back and watch the recording. Okay. What we're going to do though is back on that Home tab is add a to-do item. Remember, these are our virtual sticky notes. If you wanted to just add something quickly, you could just type in the text box and click add. We're going to go and click the detailed to-do list add link though. So right here on the screen, that's going to bring us to the to-do list add screen. Just wanted to give it a second for everybody to get here. When you are here, you'll notice that your name is in the employee box. You do have the ability to send this to another employee though, based on profile codes. You should. I think most of us should have that ability to do so. If you click the little ellipses, the 3 dots, this is where you could search for somebody else. So if I'm looking for Patrice and I wanted to add to her to-do list, I could. I would just click her ID number. For now though, let's just keep you in there. Keep yourself in there. The begin date populates as today. I can target date a to-do list item. So if this is something that needs to be done by a specific date or time, just date rather, there's no timestamp on this. I can do that. So let's say maybe it's the end of the week. And then the summary is what the actual to-do item is. Follow up with Dr. X about patient Y. Okay. Whatever that to-do item is for you is what you'll type in the summary. None of the options below are required, but they are helpful in terms of sorting your to-do list, in terms of highlighting your to-do list if you have a lot of items. So if this is a high priority, low, normal, I could select one of those. If this is an ongoing project and I want other people to know where I am at with that project or to-do item, I can put in a percentage complete. Status dropdown, again, it's just helpful for other people maybe to know who are looking, maybe supervisors are looking at this to-do item and you want them to know where you're at with it. And then category colors are also helpful, not just because they're fun and pretty, but because they can be used to denote, depending on how you use them and how you discuss using them as an agency, they could denote different types of to-do list items. Things that are in green might, and I'm just spitballing here, I'm just throwing out ideas, maybe things that you put in green are related to billing. Green for money, billing. Things that are in blue are related to patient-related to-do list items. So however you might want to use those and discuss that, you can, but if you don't, that's also okay too. It could also just be a personal thing for your own organizational needs. Green is my favorite color though, so I'm just going to choose that. Is private will block this from other users, from other employees seeing this, but keep in mind that, again, those with higher level rights like administrators, supervisors, will still be able to see to-do list items. And then if you needed more space, you could use the description box to really describe this to-do item if needed. When you're ready, add to-do item, the little box at the bottom left, will actually add that to your to-do list. Once it's been added, you'll be brought to your actual to-do list. You can see across the top, you have different filtering options. So if you happen to future date this, if this is an item for next week, you can filter for future items or completed items. So if I click this complete button and actually complete my to-do item, I can filter for all of those completed. Most of us won't see a delete button. If you don't see the delete, that's okay. You're probably not going to see many delete buttons in the system because we really want to keep track of pretty much everything that goes into our EHR. Only those with higher level rights will typically have that delete button. And I skipped over the select button, my bad. If you needed to edit this at any point, you could click the select button. And then if you click your home tab, you'll notice we were actually in the to-do item from our record. But if you click that home tab, that overview of your to-do list starts to populate across the top. Any questions? Any questions about any of that stuff so far? Because that's kind of the end of a big chunk of information. Questions, comments, concerns, anything you would like to see again? Tamika said,
oh, go ahead.
Yep, real quick. Yeah, Tamika, great. The direction of the arrow, if you hover over that, you might need to be in your actual to-do list for the hover to work. But they're the priority level. So if it's pointing up, it's a high priority. If it's pointing right, it's a normal priority. If it's pointing down, it's a low. But if you go back in, if you click all current to-do items, you can hover over that just in case you forget. Good question, though. Patrice, go ahead.
Supervisors will be able to see the to-do list of the people they're supervising as long as the structure is built that way?
Correct. So if I have access to other employees, I have to remember what that security matrix line is. I don't think that's locked down by profile code. I think the security matrix line for that is for any employee to see anybody else's to-do list.
Oh, so everyone can see everything.
Correct. If they have that security matrix. I would have to double check on the exact, I don't think that there's a specific just supervisor can see to do. I think it's all employees can see other, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Which actually, let me see. Interesting. So, oh, Duong, okay. Yep, I was just double checking. I see your to-do list there now as well, so we're good. Okay, guys, we've been here for about 2 hours. I know we're only here until noon, but it is still good to take a little bit of a break and step away from the computer for a minute. So let's go ahead and do that. And are we okay with, what would you prefer, 10 or 15 minutes? I'll let it up to you.
I can't even see the chat, and I know the vote is 15.
Okay. So I'm actually going to round up because we do have a little bit, just a couple things to double check too. So we'll round up. We'll come right back at 11:15. I think we're all in the same time zone here, right? We're all on the East Coast. So 11:15, just so we can handle some of these outstanding issues as well. So if you're good and don't have any questions, don't have any issues to resolve, come on back and be ready to start work again at 11:15. But Lori and Leela, let's get you guys handled here. So this was a login issue, right, still?
Yes, they can't log in. And I had a lady, Judy Griffin, who said she can only hear, she can't see. So I told her to come out and come back in, but she said for some reason she's stuck in audio only.
Oh.
Yeah. That was a little new for me.
That's new for me too. I don't know. That I'm gonna actually have to ask about. I don't know that. Yeah. Okay. So Judy, give me a minute on that one. Let's go with so Leela. Leela, what's your last name again? And can you we can get you guys unmuted, I hope. So Leela, I just unmuted her on this end, so you should be good to chat with me.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yes, my last name is Suah. S-U-A-H.
Oh, that might be part of the issue because you. This is not you?
No, that's my supervisor.
Oh, that's why. So S-U.
A-H.
For some reason, I just thought like I thought you maybe went by a different name, and
Oh no.
my mind was like, okay, so clinician L-S-U-A-H.
Yes.
Patrice, did you reset her password at all by any chance? Oh, she might have stepped away. Do you know if she tried to, Leela?
I did step away, but I ran back. No, I didn't, because I don't think I can reset passwords for different domains. I think I can only do it for the MD VOACI. But if I can do it for other domains, you can teach me.
I think you can, as long as you have admin rights, right?
Yes.
You should go into, just Leela, if you give us a second, search for her.
Under employee?
Employee, yep.
Okay.
Search Suah, S-U-A-H.
Got it.
And then in her record, there should be the login.
Okay.
And then
got it.
Update password. Right. And then I've been doing password with a capital P, 1 exclamation.
Okay.
While you do that,
exclamation.
It was Lori Williams.
Yes.
Lori Williams.
So do I click change password now?
Yep, and it should reset you. Or it should tell you, I think it says password has been reset.
Yeah, but it never made me pick a domain. Does that matter?
No, because you should already be logged into the TRN, right?
No, I'm logged into MD. I can't get in either, but I figured I'd let you deal with them first.
Okay, so Leela, she just.
Because when Leela tried to use me, she couldn't get in. So I tried to use me and I couldn't get in.
Okay, so Leela,
yeah,
make a mental note of that your production domain password also got reset to password 1, capital P exclamation.
That's your MD VOACI domain.
Okay, so that one without the TRN is also going to be that generic password. Let me update it here in the training domain too.
So I can update the password for whatever domain I am in at the moment.
That you're in at the moment, correct.
Got it. Thank
So
you.
you're welcome. So now Leela, I just updated it for the TRN. So username was L Suah, right? S-U-A-H.
Yes.
Password with a capital P, 1 exclamation, and then the domain MDVOACITRN.
Okay, let me try.
So Patrice, you couldn't log into the training domain either?
No, I couldn't log into it.
So let's get you in here too, because I want you to be able to work in the training domain as well. So, oops, definitely spelled that wrong. Was it? It was.
Okay, I'm logged in. Thank
awesome.
you.
Leela, thank you so much for your patience. Let me know if you need me to review anything or if you want to click through anything that we can. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
You wanna if you reset me, then you could go on to Lori, because I know you probably want to break too, and it's 11:05.
This is interesting though. I do want to step away for a second. But this to-do list, somebody must have added, did I added it to myself though. Somebody must have added it. Somebody must have added it and just used the same.
Yeah, because you did do yourself.
Okay, because you didn't do this? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure that that was, oh, this is me. Jeez, okay.
See, you need a break.
I do, just for a second. I'm gonna do the same password.
Okay.
You'll be prompted again to change it. I would suggest that you change it to whatever it is that you have, that you changed your other domain to. So
got it.
So you don't have to remember 2 separate passwords, but then you should be able to log into training and be good to experiment with everything. And Lori, Lori.
Hello.
Perfect.
Williams.
How are you, Lori? So you are still getting the error of password doesn't match?
Yeah.
And she's L.A. Williams.
A. Williams. Log.
Because I'm in the regular, I'm just not in the training Credible.
Okay, let me try something here. Because I think I reset it. So let me do. Okay, nope, I didn't. Let me try. Okay, so let me do this then. Employee Williams again, Lori Williams. Oops. Okay, and let me make sure we do have a login profile. Let me just make sure it works here. Okay, it should, Lori, it should work because I got to this screen here. Can you see mine? Okay, so this is what you're gonna see when you type in L.A. Williams, password 1 with a capital P and an exclamation point. And then domain MD VOACITRN.
All right, let me give that a try. That did it. Thank you.
You are so welcome. Again, let me know if there's anything that I can kind of review with you, anything that you missed. I am though going to step away for just a minute.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
You're very welcome. Absolutely. I'm glad that you got in. All right, guys. I will be.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. I'll be back in just a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay, everyone, I am back here. Let me get myself back in the domain. Hopefully you had a good break. Just enough time to step away, get your eyes rested, get your brain rested a little, and ready to kind of wrap up this session at least. What we're going to dive into next is client-related information, client record info. So just to double check, could you please raise your hand and go to webinar just to let me know that you're back and ready to go. Just want to make sure the majority of us are here before we move on. Okay, again, that hand raised, I'm only seeing about 5 or 6 of them. So if you are here, let me know. Raise a hand up, let me know that you're good to go. Okay, they're there, they're coming in. Fantastic. And Patrice, I just want to double check with you that we don't need to walk through adding a client to the system with this group, correct?
No, I don't think the clinicians are going to be adding clients.
Okay.
What do you guys think, team? Drop your comments in the chat box.
I can always go through it.
Okay, that's better safe than sorry.
Okay. The only thing I will say is that if we go to this client, go ahead and do that with me. So find your way back to click on the client tab. If you have the ability, you could click this add client button. If you don't see that add client button, that means you don't have the security rights, and that's something that you probably won't be doing as a part of your role. And that's okay. Does anybody, just let me know, does anybody not have the add client button? Okay, I am not getting any responses that you don't, so we should be able to walk through this together quickly, which is great because then you have a test client to kind of play around with in your system. Oh, okay, there they were slowly coming in. Okay, Charlotte and Lynn don't have the add client button. You guys are billers, so you have the billing profile code, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Charlotte, you guys won't. You're not really going to be doing that. So you could just follow along for now if you're okay with that. Take some notes if you need to. And Phil, I did just see your message. And actually now Patrice, you're in the domain, right? Actually, I could do it.
Yes.
Real quick.
Okay.
I was going to say, by the time I asked you to do it, I could be doing it anyway.
Okay.
So, Phil, yeah, Phil, yep.
Sorry about that.
Say that again.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
MDVOA Citrin, correct?
Citrin. Oh, I like that. Citrin. Yeah. Let me type it in to the questions box so you can just copy and paste.
Okay, thank you.
Password cannot be. Oh, shoot. Okay, so I got to give you a different one.
Sorry.
Which is fine. I'll just type it directly into the questions box so you can copy and paste. Okay.
Thank you.
Username is P. Password. Yep. And then domain is this right here.
Oh, okay. CITRN.
Yep. So Maryland, Volunteers of America, Chesapeake Incorporated Training. So that should be in the questions box there for you, Phil. Okay. Most of us, though, except our billers, are good with adding a client. Just a quick overview of the client tab before we do that. On the client tab, you'll see an alphabet across the top that allows you to filter by last name, client's last name, who are active. The filtering and search options below that are just as they look. So you could search now by first name, by date of birth. The name/ID is the last name. The drop down that says all active is the ability to search for different statuses that you may need to put or place different clients in. All active, all inactive, active, discharged. Disenrolled, I think, is more of a DC status, if I remember that correctly. So different clients can be placed into these different statuses, and we could search for them that way. And then you can also filter by teams and programs. Below, when you initially click, when you first click on the client tab, you're going to get a list that is populated by client records that you have interacted with most recently. So if you don't see anything there yet, that's okay. That means you haven't clicked into a client record, but once you start interacting with more records, they will begin to populate, again, based at the top, the most recent client down to the least recent client at the very bottom. You could click on their name to access. You could click view. And billers, if you want to watch us add, you can, if you wanted to do that and see the process. Or billers, if you would rather just filter for a client and look and play around in their record while we add one, you can do that as well, depending on what you'd like to do there. But the rest of us, what we're going to do is actually click that add client button if you haven't done so yet. And what we're going to do here is first select a team. So this should be a team that you're on. So that way you can actually view and use this client. We don't want to add them to a team that we're not actually going to be able to use. So you should know what team you're on. If you forgot by any chance, just go ahead, right click on your record. You can open your record in a new tab, and you can view all of the teams that you're on in your employee record. But go ahead and put them on a team that you are on. If you're on multiple teams or want to put this client on multiple teams, you'll just click Control or hold Control on your keyboard. And as long as you have Control held down, you'll be able to click multiple teams to add this client to. I think most of us are on this OMHC team right now. But again, feel free to add your new client to a team that you would like. Just a quick overview of this, guys, since most of us won't do this anyway. This is all demographic information that can be added at the time of adding a client, but we can always come back and edit this demographic information later. At the bare minimum, you have to fill out the fields that are in maroon with the asterisk. So in your domain, those are required fields. That's first name, last name, status, and gender. So you could just make up some names here. Try not to use my name because then we'll have duplicates in here. But if you need to, if you're not feeling very creative, you could copy. Actually, I'm not feeling very creative here as right now. I'm using my last name because I can't think of anything else. I'm going to put them into an active status since we're going to be using them right away. I'll set her to female. Just know that the gender drop down here is for billing purposes. Our our billers are still kind of in that binary world and need to know that gender at birth. So that's why this is only the binary, but you do have gender identity to be able to fill out in those cases. Oops. Feel free to add more if you would like right now, but just for our purposes so that we can start working with the client, go ahead and you can click client, save client and complete. If you really wanted to check for duplicates, you could, just to double check. But for now, just save that client. And when you save it, you will be automatically directed here to their newly created client record. Phil, what happens when you try to save it?
I'm not. I don't have it even coming up on my screen. All I have is your tutorial screen. My screen is simply home. It didn't move. I wasn't able to move from that, partly in resetting the password.
Oh, you're still on the home tab?
Yeah.
Okay, so click on the.
I just need to, go ahead, please. Client. Okay.
Client tab.
Yeah.
And then, do you have this add client button in the top?
Yes, I do.
Yep. So if you wanted to just quickly add them to a team that you're on.
I had it before. I don't have it now. I saw it before. Now I don't see it. Advanced search, records, all active. Gosh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So you don't see the add client button?
No, I don't.
That's actually okay. That's okay, because I don't think most times, Phil, you're going to be adding a client anyway, based on your role. So if you just wanted to filter for a client that's on your team or program, so you know what teams and programs you're on in the system.
No, I don't.
Let me look you up here real quick.
Sorry for that.
That's okay. So what I would do is filter for. Can you see my shared screen now?
Actually, no. I'm only on my screen.
That's okay.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm on your screen with the arrow.
So these are all the programs that you're on. So you're on DC MedSom, DC FSMH, DC MAT, all those. So then what I would do is go back to the client tab.
Yes.
On your screen now, and you see where there's this drop down with program and team.
Yes.
And Leela, if you don't have sufficient, oh, Leela, you're good now. Okay, so for anybody else that was maybe getting an error, we might just need to do this for you. So your program, again, one of your programs there, Phil, was
MedSom.
One of these, yeah. So I would just filter for anybody that's in one of those programs.
Okay.
So you're going to go with MedSom, click filter, and then click on any one of their. Oh, looks like we have some test.
I just click on their name.
Clients. Yep, and that's going to take you to their record when you click on that. Now, you have some. It looks like you have a record here that people really were playing around with already. So you might have additional information that we're going to add here in a minute, but that's okay. You'll just kind of.
Do I click on view?
You could click on view, or you could click on the hyperlink name. And it will take you to their record.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So you're going to see a lot more info than what we have right now, but that's okay. Because somebody was already, this is a test client, it looks like Haruka put in here earlier, but we'll add more to it as well. Okay. Everybody though, Leela. You're good. Duong, we're going to get to that actually. So that is a great question. We'll do that in just a little bit. He's asking about how to add a dependent. We're gonna go through a lot of that functionality here in just a bit. So let me get back to Michelle. I'm going to end up changing her name because I don't like that she has my last name. But when we get to our client's record, it's going to look a lot like our employee record did. So it should look familiar, which is good. That's something that throughout the system, I hope that you start to realize that there are a lot of similarities. There's a lot of overlap. Kind of once you learn and see one thing, it should hopefully look familiar and help you out in another place in the system. In this case, just like in our employee record, our nav bar is on the left-hand side again. There are different links in our nav bar and our client nav bar compared to our employee nav bar. And that makes sense because we want to have different information excuse me, added to our client's record as opposed to our employee record. So things in here are the treatment plan, a diagnosis, insurance information, allergies, family, contacts, all of these things that we might want to be adding, attachments, warnings. You guys aren't prescribing, but you might need to view maybe or capture a medication. So we can do that. Actually, we're going to do all of that through orders. So lots of functionality here that's tied to the client's nav bar. And remember, this nav bar only shows up when you're actually in a client record. In the middle are some widgets. If you wanted to add a client picture, you could. If you guys do that, I don't know that you do at your agency, but it's just like adding an attachment to an email, basically. So I'll do it real quick. I clicked add image. If you don't have any files saved, that's okay. You can just watch, but I'll choose file, go to pictures. I have a folder of headshots here. And I'll upload that picture. Okay, again, just like adding an attachment. If you don't use that, that's okay, but just know that it's there. I can add a to-do item from a client's record, which is great, because if I add a to-do item from the client's record, if I click detailed to-do list add, it's actually going to hyperlink that client's name. Patrice, I'll come back to that question in just a sec, okay? What it's going to do is actually hyperlink the client's name here when I save this to-do item. So if there is review, you don't have to do this, I'm just demoing, but if you wanted to click along with me, you can. Review Michelle's diagnosis. Just a random thing that popped into my head. But once I do this through a client's record, it actually hyperlinks her name then. So that way I can just quickly get to her record and then do what I have to do related to Michelle. It's just a quick little benefit of adding a to-do list item through a client's record. Assignments are here. This is where this should look familiar from our PowerPoint. These little screenshots that you saw before, this is where it lives now in the actual client record. We have assigned teams, and it looks like, Patrice, that you guys aren't doing the one-to-one relationship between your teams and programs.
Maryland isn't. They have a universal program, but DC is basically one-to-one.
Okay, so if I add a DC team, okay, so Maryland, if you shouldn't have to do this in your actual domain, but because we're just learning in the training domain, you're going to have to add a program so that you can actually schedule this client later. So if you need to, if you're not seeing a program in your newly created client's assignments, on the left-hand side on the nav bar is the program link. Make sure you add them to a program that you're on. So that way you can actually schedule and complete documentation for this client later. So I know I'm on a bunch. So I'm going to add her to a bunch so I can use her in subsequent trainings. But for your purposes right now, for anybody that doesn't have a program for their client, just make sure you assign them to a program. Okay. If you needed to go into the program, you can always go back by clicking their hyperlinked name at the top or the overview button. That will take you back to their record. And then once those assignments are there, again, in your day-to-day work, once you go live, you shouldn't have to be really editing these. This is just a place where you'll mostly have to view or want to view. You could do that. You could also see the client episode here. Just know that if you needed to go in and view or edit any episodic information, you could click on that episode ID. We have an episode for every program, and you could go in and edit and update that episodic information. How do you know what program you're in? Valerie, oh, Hannah. So Hannah, or for anybody, if you wanted to remember what programs you're in, just so that you can stay in your client's record right now, what I'm going to suggest is that you right-click on your hyperlinked name and open your record in a new tab. And then on your employee record, you'll be able to see which programs you're on there. I just want to double check. I hope that you have some. Yeah, you do. Okay. Let me know if that works. Rosenberg, you're still not showing up either. Huh. What's your client's name that you created, Val? Valerie, sorry, I called you Val, as if you might go by that, but uh-oh, we have two of them. That's interesting. I would have to put a pin in that for a second, Val, and get back to you. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's happening, but I'll make a note of it and get back to you, just because there's a handful of things I wanted to make sure we get through here by noon. Oh, okay, all good. Awesome. On the right-hand side, guys, thank you for your patience. On the right-hand side, just like our home screen and just like our employee record, it's just more overview information. So if I need to just get a glance at some demographic information, schedule, billing, all that's there. If I wanted to actually edit any demographic information, the edit button is the quickest way to get there. So go ahead and do that. And this pulls you into that screen that looks a whole lot like the screen when we added our client into the system. But this is where I can update. So I'm actually going to update this last name because I don't like having it. Feel free to update whatever you'd like. Add an address. I would suggest adding an address and a date of birth. So that way when you start completing services for them, they won't get red X'd. We'll talk about that later, but just have it. Shuttleworth, let's do It's my mom's maiden name. Plus I like alliteration. So I'm just going to update a couple of things in here. You don't have to do what I'm doing. I'm updating the date of birth. You can update whatever you would like. Say January 22nd. I'm going to put in an address for her. I live in Arlington, so I'm just going to make this in Arlington 209. Feel free to just take a look. I'll give you a few seconds to look at that and update anything you'd like. Fill in the client's record on the right-hand side. If you're still looking at my screen, on the right-hand side, under client info. Let me know if you or when you found it.
Let me see if I can find it.
Those of you that are maybe still editing, go ahead and finish up editing whatever you'd like into your client's demographic. Excuse me. And then, as always, the one thing you need to remember is that update button at the very bottom. So I'm going to update Michelle. So let me know if you needed to.
I'm not sure I see the screen you're on where edit is. I don't know how I get to that screen for my client.
Go ahead back to the client tab.
Yeah. And
then you should see that client. I think it was whichever one you chose. I think it was Haruka probably. Yeah. You click either on the hyperlinked first or last name or click view, and that will get you back to their profile.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Which then,
I see it.
So anytime you're looking for that client information, just click yourself back, or you lose your client, click back on the client tab, and if you interacted with them recently and they're active, they'll show up right here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm gonna go back into Michelle. You can print from here, guys, if you needed to. So just a quick overview of that. You can choose any part of the profile that's listed here to be able to check and then pull in to your print off. Visit headers. We'll just give you a brief information like what the service was, who the employee was, the date, etc. I always like to point out hide empty profile fields is always good to save paper, to save some trees. So if you wanted to hide empty profile fields, you could. But if you needed to print anything, you could do that from here. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And then go to the print view. The hide profile fields, blank profile fields is also just nice because then you don't have to squint at all those blank spaces. The last thing that I'd like to point out with client info here is the full client info link. This is like a read-only version when I click here. Gives me an overview of all that info, including miscellaneous, including what's called the client extended. You guys have a handful of client extended fields that are separate from your basic demographic information, so you can see what's in here. Hospital episodes are listed here as well. You'll also notice that some of these fields are in blue hyperlinks and some are black text. Anything that's in blue is configured as a change history field. So it's tracking changes to that field. So like I changed Michelle's last name. If I click on last name, it'll show me the change date, who it was changed by, what the old value was, and what the new value is. So good for, you know, multiple reasons. Maybe something changed and you don't know why. You could reach out to the person who changed it and have that discussion, or maybe you just needed to access an old piece of information, maybe an old phone number or something, an old address, in case something came up that you needed that information. But all of those change history fields are in blue hyperlinks. Okay. So we have about 10 minutes. There's a couple things left with the client here. We'll be able to get through a couple of them, but don't worry, we have a full 3 hours, which will be more than enough time to really, in our next session on Wednesday, tomorrow. Wow, tomorrow's already Wednesday. So not to worry there. But what we do have time to get to today is the family link on the nav bar. So we're actually going to add a family member by clicking on that link in the client's nav bar, and then click Add Family Members in the upper right-hand corner. Before I go any further, I just want to pause and make sure that we're good. If anybody isn't looking at the screen yet, let me know. If anybody needs another minute, let me know. Otherwise, if I don't hear from you, I'm going to assume that we are good. Uh-oh. Duong, you clicked on the family link here on the client's nav bar. Phil, absolutely. Yeah, you can reach out to me at any time. I just saw your thing. Okay, Duong, good. Yep. So that add family member button is on the family link on the nav bar. And Phil, I'm just going to put my email in there right now, just in case. I forget. Scott.Shuttleworth. So I just sent you my email as well, Phil. Anytime, whatever you need, shoot me an email. Duong, we're good. Perfect. So on this family screen here, adding a family member. Pretty straightforward. When we were first looking at it, we can add name, address, all of that. There's the relation dropdown. So if we want to know what type of relation this is, we could do that. Somebody earlier asked a question about a dependent. You have the checkbox to note whether or not this person is a dependent for the client whose record we're in. So let's say this is Charles, and this is child. Wow, I could not find that for the life of me. This is Charles Morelli. I could do that. I could mark then down here that Charles is a dependent of Michelle. Now I could manually enter all of this in, phone number, address, all of that. I'll let you fill that out if you'd like. There is an ROI checkbox here. You have a couple extra fields for the ROI dimension if it's part of primary care. If we need to report this for billing. I don't know if you're using the 42 CFR. Most agencies don't. That's related to SUD programs. Really, what we want to make sure if we check our ROI obtained checkbox, so we put in a start date and an end date. So this doesn't necessarily, or this is not our actual release of information, right? This is just saying we have one on file. But if I needed to know, the question always comes up, how do I know? Every client has a service list on their nav bar. Now, none of our new clients are going to have anything in there, but I always suggest to right-click and open in a new tab, so that way you can stay on your family, but then I can look through here and, okay, if we actually had documents, services that have been completed, they'd all show up here. I could search for my service type in the dropdown, and I could search for those releases of information. Looks like that might not be configured in your domain just yet. Or unless maybe, do you have it called something else? Patrice, is your release called something else?
I don't believe so. The release of information?
Yeah.
I
can't think of another terminology.
It
Yeah,
shouldn't be
off the
called.
top of my head, but I always like to ask, you know, things
Yeah.
always it could be different.
Valerie said no too.
I would make a note of that, Patrice.
That is not here.
Yeah, that is not showing up in the
Okay.
the service type filters.
All right.
It might just be something that is still a work in progress that didn't get copied over into the training domain, but I would definitely make sure that you follow up with it.
Okay.
But I think you guys get the idea that if I was, you know, looking for that release of information, once it is in here in our list, you can see all your other service types. I could find that release of information and then double check it as I'm adding my family member. Because I checked my checkbox, I do have to add in my start date. So I'm just going to put some arbitrary start and end dates for my ROI. For now, using my calendar pickers, I'll just take it out a year. FYI, my birthday is next week, a week from now. As I'm looking at that date, I just realized that we're a week out from that. So I expect presents.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I don't actually expect presents. Just trying to lighten the mood here. So as we continue to look at our family member, there's a couple other things in here we could check. You could see all of our other reporting tools that we have. Guarantor is included in that if we needed to note. If you needed to make any other information, Charles is seen here weekly or bi-weekly. I don't know. That's as creative as I can get right now with the notes. I have seen some agencies put in release of information related notes here, like what can be disclosed about Michelle's care. That could be put into the notes. The last thing that I will point out here, because if I remember correctly, you guys do a lot of family work. Let's say Charles was already in my system. Charles is already a client in MDVOA. I can click this add link to existing client, and what that does is allows me to search for his actual record, and then I can hyperlink him. I could click on his name or click on his ID number, And that would actually hyperlink Charles's record so that I can have easy access. Plus, it will also copy over any address, any demographic information, so I don't have to manually enter it if he's already been entered into our system. So that add link to existing client could be very nice if we're trying to fill out kind of like family trees here. Otherwise, guys, the button here to add is at the very bottom left. And of course, we have a weird little error here in our training domain. This happens every once in a while. I apologize. Let me take a screenshot of that. Did that happen to anybody else? If it didn't happen to anybody else, that's great. Could just be me. Okay, if it didn't happen to anybody else, great. Hopefully that just saved for you. Sometimes in our training domains, we just get like weird little hiccups. So once you save that, you should be brought to this overview page. And this is where you could see that overview information. If I needed to edit, I could click select. That would take me into edit. If I use that link to existing client, their name would be hyperlinked here. I put in notes, so I can hover to discover. If I put a note, that little eye will be there and I can see that note without having to go in. Saves me a click. The one thing I will mention about this is a tie into your integrated primary care module. Family members can be included into medical profile, but family members do have to be entered here through the family link before they can be pulled in and documented into the med profile. So just a note about that. We are at 11:59 though. So is there anything for today that I can clarify, that I can review again? Answer a question about anything like that? You guys got real quiet. You're ready for lunch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you guys have any questions that you would like Scott to answer, you can email them to me and I will forward them to Scott for tomorrow, so we can have a review session a little bit before we start our work.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
That's perfect. Thank you, Patrice, for throwing that out there. That is absolutely great. Tomorrow should be a smoother start, so we'll have a full 3 hours to really dive in. Just so you are aware, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 more little navbar links that we'll go through on the client, and then we'll actually get into scheduling and documentation. So that will really be the bulk of what tomorrow is, making sure we can schedule and make sure we can access documentation, complete it. So yeah, if you guys are good, I'm good. I have a couple extra minutes. If anybody did need to stay, anybody maybe that got in late or needed to review anything, I'm here. But otherwise, I will say have a great day, have a great afternoon, and feel free to log out. I'll see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
We will also see some of you at 1 o'clock today.
Correct, yeah. Perfect, thanks guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Yep,
See you.
I think looks like we're good. I'm not seeing any questions come in. I'm not hearing anybody.
Okay.
Although, actually, Francisca, sorry. I see that your hand's up. If you wanted to unmute, I don't know if that was an accident or not. Just want to make sure I. Get you there.
And now that I can reset passwords, if any of the new people have a problem for the 1 o'clock session, I can just deal with them because I think I could see the regular chat if I'm not a host, right?
You should. What I'll probably, I'll just make you, I can make you an organizer too, and then you should be able to see the questions box.
Okay, so then I
yeah,
can handle the reset passwords for you.
Yeah, I'm seeing another hand up too. I don't know. Arafan, I see your hand too. If you had something, maybe you're just waving. You guys are waving goodbye. Yeah, Patrice, I appreciate your patience. I was supposed to have a colleague on the line, but
Oh, no problem.
we got slammed with some extra stuff this week, and it just like they had
No
to go
problem.
So I really appreciate your patience and your help this afternoon. I will have somebody though tomorrow.
Okay.
For these
No
sessions.
problem.
So that between all of us, we'll
make it work.
Make it work.
So to leave, all I have to do by the chat box and everything, that X in the upper right-hand corner, I just have to hit that, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay.
And those of you that had your hands up, if you, I unmuted you. I'll be here for a second. If you need to unmute, you can do that, or you can put something in the questions box, or you could send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat.
I think some people just don't know how to leave.
Right. That might be it. I just want to make sure we're good. I hate to leave people hanging. So, or if you need to, reach out to Patrice, but I am going to end it for all of us. So my email's there. If you need to reach out to Patrice, go ahead. But otherwise, guys, I'll either see you tomorrow or this afternoon.
All right. See you at 1, Scott. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Bye.